Welcome, everyone, to this episode of the Mortgages by Gretchen show, where I talk to real people who are in the field of real estate or related to real estate, who are not only experts, but they're very generous and willing to give their time and knowledge and wisdom to everyone here. And the goal of the show is for you to get some information and tips to reach your own goals in owning real estate or handling your debts, and to take some of the guesswork out of what to do or who to call when you're in the process or have questions. And today it is my pleasure to have Kirti Singh here with me. And Kirti is, you can correct me, is it certified insolvency administrator and a qualified insolvency counselor?
Yes, those are the titles that I have, yeah.
Okay. And that's with Farber, licensed insolvency trustees.
Yes.
Sorry, a little mouthful for me.
That's okay.
Yeah, and so I met Kirti, I'm going to say 5 years, I'm not even sure, maybe longer, time flies.
Yeah, I think it's probably about 5 years or so, yeah, that we've been working together.
Yeah, we met through business at her office, and quickly developed a good relationship of trust and and mutual goals of wanting to help people who need money or need to rearrange money or just need some financial assistance. And I have the pleasure of working together with Kirti to help people. And she's very caring, capable, and helps many people who are having financial challenges. So Kirti, can you please tell me in your words what you do and who you help?
So we can pretty much help anyone that is in financial difficulty, has questions about what type of solutions might be out there for them. I mean, we are insolvency trustees, but also counselors. So we do go over financial options, and sometimes that means, a referral to you because a remortgage or refinance is a better option for them. But what we do specifically is help people file either bankruptcy or consumer proposal. So those are our licensed areas of expertise and the solutions we're able to provide.
Okay. And a question that just came to my mind that I hadn't thought about before, but if someone does want to meet with you to have a consultation, is there a fee for the consultation?
It is free. It is a free consultation, and generally our fees are usually included in whatever solution we look at. So if we look at a proposal, which is more of a settlement of the debt, a portion to that comes to us for fees. And so there isn't really a set fee for any type of meeting or consultation.
Okay, that's great. With COVID-19, it's obviously affected everyone. What effects are you seeing in terms of the questions that you're getting? And can you share any trends that give a picture of kind of what's been happening from your perspective?
Yeah, I mean, I would definitely say people are reaching out for information as much as they can. It is a very uncertain time in the world, and people's income has been affected so negatively. We have people that are on CERB that are now coming off of CERB. And so while the banks were willing to give certain solutions, like payment deferrals and mortgage deferrals and things like that, they're sort of tightening up on a little bit of that right now. And with people going from CERB to EI, they're not really sure how they can manage all of their living expenses and the debt that they may have also accumulated due to COVID-19 and increased expenses for a lot of people who are at home, just like little things like their utilities going up because they're at home all the time, and I think what we've seen in terms of trends is a lot more consultations, a lot more looking at options. We're very busy from that respect, and we have a wide range of Canada that we cover now because we do have different offices in different provinces. So we overall have increased the amount of people that we're talking to about these options.
Okay. And before we started this, you and I talked about that although you're seeing more people, you're not seeing more proposals and you're not necessarily seeing more actual bankruptcies.
Yeah, we've noticed that there is a little bit of a trend downward. And I think part of the reason for that is we are doing a lot of things electronically. So that's not always something that everyone is comfortable with. I also think that things are changing so quickly that people want the information, they may want to find out. It is a huge step to take in your life. And if your situation turns around in a month or two, you may regret taking that kind of step, because it does close the credit cards. There are other, snowball domino effect things that happen, that they aren't really ready to kind of take that leap. But we're certainly here to give the information so that when the time does come, they're ready and they're prepared and they're confident in that decision.
Yeah, that's so important that people have the information. They feel more comfortable at that point.
Yeah, there's a lot of mixed messages out there. I mean, there are different companies that claim to do similar things, but we're insolvency trustees. We're licensed by the government. It's a formal legal procedure that we can help people with. So what we're doing is very much on a certain level. So, it's very official and helpful to most people that decide to go forward.
Okay, so you're licensed. Maybe other people who do debt settlement or something aren't licensed. That's my understanding. And if they're not trustees or not working for a trustee company, so maybe it's a good time to kind of explain the difference between someone trying to negotiate a settlement themselves with a creditor versus a debt settlement company or a consumer proposal or bankruptcy.
Right. So you can certainly do an informal settlement on your own. When someone does an informal settlement on their own, what they're doing is approaching, I more recommend that if they have one or two creditors and maybe it's gone to collection agencies, because collection agencies generally buy a debt for, let's say, 10 cents on the dollar, and then if you pay them 20 cents on the dollar, they've made a profit and they're willing to do that. I always recommend people get those settlements in writing, make sure they have the backup information so it reflects accurately on their credit reports, or at least they have it if someone has that question on, was this account paid or whatnot. Debt settlement companies or credit counselors, they generally may handle negotiating with your creditors on your behalf as well, because sometimes that can be a really difficult task and they have certain tools and certain skills, certain things at their disposal. The difference between those kind of companies and what we do is that we deal with everyone all at once. So we can't cherry pick who we are dealing with. If we do a consumer proposal, it's all of the debt, one payment, settling that over a 5-year period. So for instance, somebody owes $40,000. We may negotiate a settlement of 20 cents on the dollar, which is $150 a month over 5 years. So much more reasonable payment, but it has to include all of that. Where a debt settlement company or even credit counseling, they can kind of help you deal with one or two, but not the others if you're in trouble with some of that.
Okay.
It is, I think, important to look at the fact that all of those will affect your credit negatively. As part of a proposal or a bankruptcy, we actually give two counseling sessions where we do go over budgeting, because budgeting is important, and rebuilding your credit. So we will give people those tools to get back on their feet as well. Someone paying $150 a month, for instance, in a proposal is getting a lot of relief, but it is negative on their credit report. So they can't go out and just get another loan or a credit card. They need the tools and the expertise and like the method on how to get back on track.
Okay. And with a proposal, they need to have money to pay that settlement. Is that correct?
So
And
it's a
they
monthly payment. Yeah, proposal is a monthly payment over 5 years. Generally, that's how they're set up. For 20 to 30% of what you owe. It depends on your income. It depends on your assets. Each situation is individual, because a proposal is a little bit of an alternative to a bankruptcy. And the reasons people would do a proposal, for instance, is if they had a home that had equity, for instance, and they wanted to protect that equity and not have that house, be in any kind of danger or anything. But let's say the house had $30,000 of equity. We may do a proposal for $32,000 over 5 years or something like that. So we're protecting the equity, leaving that, protecting the asset from the creditors. Because once you're in these procedures, they can't collect money from you, they can't pursue you, they can't call you, they can't go to court, they can't do any of that. And basically, there's a stay of proceedings in effect, protecting that person from the creditors. So it's very legally binding, very formal, and helpful in a lot of situations.
Okay. And if somebody is in a proposal, but at some point during that process, they have, maybe the house goes up in value, they can actually pay that proposal out with
Yes.
a new mortgage, which is an option.
Yeah. And,
People might not realize.
right. And we've come to you in those types of situations where it's like there's equity in the property, they have a proposal on there, they can refinance the house, take out the money that they need to pay off their proposal. There are times when we've used those funds as a lump sum for a proposal. All they can get is 20,000 from another mortgage, but they still owe 30,000. Well, maybe the creditor will accept that 20 as a settlement. And by doing it through a proposal, you're encompassing all of the person's creditors, including CRA, like including income taxes, and a lot of people are not always aware that that is a debt that can be included in this type of thing.
Yeah, that's good. Another thing I hear people ask is if you do a bankruptcy, does that mean you're going to lose your house?
Yeah,
And
that's a common misconception. Any asset that is not exempt in a bankruptcy does vest with the trustee. So yes, there would be a registration on title that the person is in bankruptcy and that house vests with us, but we're not in the business of trying to take that house and sell that house or do any of that. What we do is we assess if there's any equity, and I've seen a little bit of a mix lately. I've seen people who recently bought a house, but then due to COVID-19, they lost their employment, but they recently bought the house. So there's hardly any equity. So, we've looked at solutions and there's nothing that would happen to that person's home. And what we do when we assess the equity is if it is a substantial amount to be paid back, that's the case that we do a consumer proposal usually, or we may look at or recommend a refinancing. If the equity is more than the debts, and they don't qualify for refinancing, sometimes we've just offered the creditors to pay them in full over 5 years. Just to stop the collection, stop the interest, stop any extra fees, give that relief to the person from the debt.
yeah, which is huge because there's so much stress when
Yeah,
coming
I
in
always
and
say
threats.
financial and debt problems are life problems. And if you don't realize how much stress that can put on you personally, your marriage, your family, and just relieving yourself of that one thing can bring you so much peace and relief. And that's what we try to do.
which is great. It's
Yeah.
such a gift to people that you do that. So if someone is having trouble now keeping up in their payments, so what should they try to consider or implement? And at what point should they contact you for information?
So we always recommend a budget. It's interesting to note that only around 50% of Canadians really budget. And when I say budget, to me, that means we set an amount for, food or grocery, for instance, and we try to stick to that. We track our receipts. We look at what we're actually spending. We set a budget so that a certain amount of money can be put aside towards debt repayment. And when you're looking at a strategy to try to pay off debt without these options, let's say you're just a person that is carrying debt, you want to try to pay off high interest things first. The higher the interest, the more you want to contribute towards that debt, because then you're actually bringing it down. If it's a high interest debt and you pay $200, but it's a 20% credit card, for instance, and $175 goes back on in interest, you really didn't make any kind of debt at all, dent at all in that debt. So it's best to try to budget, make sure there's money in there for debt repayment. Try to focus on the largest debts, sort of a snowball effect where you pay the largest interest, and then whatever money was going to that, you put it to the next after that one's paid off. That kind of budgeting we recommend. But if you look at your budget at the end of the day and you just see that there's not enough money to cover the payments, you know, all of your payments are $300 a month and you only have 150 left over, then it's not going to take long before you start taking from Peter to pay Paul and you reach the ceiling on all of those debts. And that's the kind of red flag that I would say you need to speak to a professional who can look at these solutions for you, talk to you about it. It's not as scary. It's a respectful, legal way to handle your debt problem. And we handle it that way. You know, we look at a person's situation and try to come up with the best possible solution for them. Sometimes it is a bankruptcy, and that's not a bad word. You know, it is a legal, formal arrangement that a person makes with their creditors. And it can be a pretty efficient process to get rid of that kind of problem.
I think that's great, respectful legal process. I'm gonna use those words because that's what it is. Yeah, and that's great to reframe it like that for people who are afraid of that word, bankruptcy. Yeah, that's excellent. And do you actually tell people, do they bring in their statements and do you look through it and do you do a spreadsheet with them, or do you, like, I have some spreadsheets I can supply, but I don't know if that's something you normally would do for people? Or
Yeah, generally, I mean, when a person comes in for a consultation, well, way back when, they bring in the things with them, and we'd sit down, we'd look at all the numbers, see what they're, you know, sometimes it's interesting to see for them what they're paying in the minimum payments and how much that can be reduced if we do one of these things. And while it does mean, you know, there are negative consequences to filing a consumer proposal, there is a lot of positive. And in terms of cash flow in your household, getting a chance to restart, rebuild, you know, people get into debt for different reasons, and they don't always, it's not extravagant spending all the time. You know, it could be something as simple as a sickness or a job loss or something out of your control. And this is taking the control back and looking at, you know, okay, I went from paying $1,000 every month for my debts, and now I'm paying 500. You know, that's putting money back in your pocket where you can use that to help save. You know, a lot of people have the goal of buying a house, and you can't do that. You can't qualify if you have that much debt.
yeah, that's a really good point.
Yeah.
Um, okay, so kind of went through most of my questions.
Did we?
Well, I got well, I kind of think we covered this, but maybe you have other tips about what people can implement in their lives to be financially healthy,
Yeah. I
in
mean,
addition to a budget.
I love when people say pay yourself first. I think that's a great habit. Financially healthy means even if you're saving, you know, $100 or $50 or something small like that, you want to save for those rainy days. You know, before you spend money on anything, look at need versus want. I think in this environment that we're in, you know, there was a lot of people talking about, should we save or should we spend and enjoy money because we have time to enjoy that a little bit more? And I think you really need to know what that balance looks like for you and your family, you know, and balance and not overdo in any way. Like, you know, at the end of the day, everyone has a rainy day in their life one day, and you want to have a plan in place so that you can deal with that adverse change that may come. But on the flip side, you know, we are going to travel again, and we are going to do all these things in the world again. And I think having a little bit of money rather than credit to do that is the most ideal scenario for any of us. Or if we use credit, we have the resource to try to pay that down as fast as we can. You know, I don't think there's anyone who can say they pay off their credit card balance to zero every single month. We generally do carry a balance. But if we can kind of limit that, and make substantial payments, then I think we're in a better position and financially healthy, you know.
That makes complete sense. And it's just great to have those reminders and awareness, and even just looking at like people kind of look within, like what are your values and what are your standards of how you want to live your life, and go from there. And
Yeah, I think, you know, a lot of emphasis has always been placed on saving for retirement or saving for those other goals, and there's nothing wrong with doing that, you know. Um, and a financial advisor is a perfect person to talk to for that kind of thing, you know. People have goals of buying a house and they don't know what it takes to qualify for that mortgage or what resources are out there. And I always say, you know, to me, mortgage broker is a great resource for that, because you guys have access to different lenders, and we'll tell them, you know, how to structure things so they can reach those goals too.
yeah, and what I love being a broker is that there's really good options for people, even if they're in a proposal or they've completed it. It doesn't mean you're going to have a private mortgage at 8%. You can definitely, there are solutions that are they're not 2% like the deals,
Yeah.
but they're not 8%. Like they're starting right now, actually, the B rates have come down 3.09 for
Wow.
up
That's
to 1 to
fantastic.
3 years, 3.09 to 3.69 with a 1% lender fee, 1% of the mortgage amount. So that's not crazy. That was considered an A mortgage, you know, a few
Yeah.
years back. So I like for people to just to share this information so that they know, hey, it's not necessarily doom and gloom. There's lots of good solutions out there and people want to help. And this is just getting you through a hard time, and it's, helpful. So
Yeah.
what would your last piece of advice be for Canadians right now?
I really, really strongly think that people need to get as much information as they can. You know, while I do personally think that proposal and bankruptcy are at the bottom of the list when it comes to all of the different debt solutions, I want and prefer the person to look into everything and get as much information as they can get, so that they have the confidence that they're doing the right thing for themselves. You know, we're not in a position where we want people to regret any decision that they make. But, you know, if they get all the pieces of the puzzle put together, get the information, you know, don't hesitate. It's not as though we have a conversation and then they have to go through with any of the solutions that we suggest. They don't. And there's no pressure to do that. We're just a resource, another way to translate some of what they read online, you know, so that they can look at everything. And there has been a lot of times where I would speak to someone and say, you know, this solution is really not for you. Look at this or look at that. And the more that they get that type of information, they can make the right choice in this financially uncertain scenario that we're all in.
Yeah. Yeah, well, you're just a real gift, you and your office, Dennis, and,
Thank
and your
you.
teams,
Yes.
because you are such caring people and empathetic, and supply great resources and tools so people can comfortably move to the next step of whatever step they
Whatever that
feel is
looks
right.
like, you know, we can't provide all of those solutions. There's no one-stop place for all of those. But yes, that's what we try. We try to connect on a human level with a person so that they're doing the right thing for themselves and they can live with that in the long term. Because there will be times that whatever that solution is comes back in one way or another. And as long as you've made the right choice for yourself, you know, you can rest with it and deal with it, I think.
Makes sense. And how do people find you if they want to reach out and connect with you?
Yeah, Farber has 50 offices in Ontario. So, you know, there's definitely an office close to anyone. I'm more in the East End, but our customer service can be reached at afarber.com. And the number for them is 888-432-7237. We are all working from home, so there's all kinds of availability and electronic solutions to help people go through this process and you know, achieve this even during this really strange time in all of our lives.
That's excellent. Well, thank you so much for your
You're
time
welcome.
and your
Nice to
great
see you.
information. So nice
Thank
to see
you.
you. Take care.
Take care.